So just a few administrative notes about Zoom. Like I said, this meeting is going to be recorded. You can enable closed captions if you need to using the show captions button on the bottom of your screen for Zoom. And if you have any questions, feel free to submit questions through the Q&A, and we'll be taking a look at those throughout the meeting. That'll be at the bottom of your toolbar as well. And I don't think anyone is calling in, but if you have called in and you want to speak, you can raise your hand by dialing *9, and then you would unmute or mute yourself using *6. So I will just go ahead and share my screen so everyone can see the agenda. And of course, it disappeared as soon as I moved it. Here we go. All right, first up, we will do just a quick introduction of committee members. And we can just popcorn it so everyone can get to know one another a little bit. My name is Josh Jacobson. I'll be the chair of the Transportation and Public Spaces Committee. Really passionate about making streets safer in the community and making it easier to get around, especially for folks that cannot afford a car or don't have a car. And I will pass it over to Commissioner Footer.
Hello, my name is Bryant Footer. I represent ANC 1E07, and I'm the chair of the commission. I'm returning after a number of years of not being an ANC, but when I was on the ANC before under 1B representing Detroit Park, I was heavily active in the transportation committee. I was the chair. And I kind of fell in love with this topic area. So really interested in kind of getting started and helping out how I can. There are a number of important issues that are happening that my constituents are very vocal about. I'm looking forward to kind of funneling those issues through this committee and trying to come up with comprehensive ways that we can try to address them all. So that's me. Nice to meet you all.
And then Commissioner Ray, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. Michael Ray, this is my third term as an ANC, originally with 1A and now with the brand new spanking 1E. I am in Parkview, just off of Georgia and Morton Street. So looking forward to what I know are some interesting projects coming up. So I will probably be on the committee from time to time, but I won't necessarily be able to join you every month, but looking forward to the new group. Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry, Allie, you can go next. That's the whole idea of popcorn, right?
Hi, my name is Allie. I am not an ANC representative or elected official, just a passionate citizen in the 1E03 block of the ANC. I'm like Josh, kind of super passionate about any kind of transportation that is not cars. So, on foot, bike, public transportation. And would love to see our little block of the neighborhood become more accessible to people not using cars. So yeah, that's my spiel. And I think Matthew, you're the last one to go.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Matthew. I'm a community member and like other folks on the committee, very interested in making our neighborhood, our area easier to get around on bike, on foot, and in lots of different ways. I would also like to use the committee as a place to talk about public space and access to public space and how people are using public space and what we can do to make that more possible and more accessible. Thanks a lot.
Great addition. Love that.
Josh, we can't hear you.
Thank you. I was saying that we should do roll call, but I guess we did that just by doing that introduction. So I think that is more than sufficient. Someone can yell at me if I'm wrong there. And then just verification notice, we did send this out through the listservs and our website, and we also have tweeted it out. And now we'd just like to quickly review the official business section and get approval of agenda, see if there are any other items that folks on the call would like to add. All right, is everyone good with the agenda as proposed then?
Yes.
Okay, and can
Yes.
you all hear any background noise on my end?
No.
No.
Okay, great. I know that Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon wanted to present at the beginning portion of the meeting, but I do not see their representative on the line right now. I guess if you're in the audience and you are here to speak about the Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon, would you please raise your hand? Okay. Then we'll move into the community announcements. So this is a portion of the meeting where committee members or members of the community can use this time to make public announcements. Everyone's limited to 1 minute just so we can keep the meeting moving. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak up? And if you would like to speak up, raise your hand. All right, I gave the 7 seconds I usually try to give for things like that. Does anyone on the committee have any announcements that they'd like to make?
I can give a little bit of an update. I found some interesting information this past week, if this is an appropriate place to do it.
Go for it.
So on Monday, I had the Bon Reco development team come and do a community presentation. We had about 30 people who participated and had a lot of really great conversations, had a very good conversation, a lot of great questions. And a lot of them were tailored towards transportation, which got me very excited. And part of the presentation, and I'll share the presentation with you all, but they were kind of expressing this unique design that they're trying to do, which they've been modeling off of some work that's been done in New York City, where they're going to turn a segment of W Street into a pedestrian-friendly street, which is supposed to try and I guess make the terrain less accommodating to vehicular traffic and more accommodating to pedestrians. But it's going to be W between 8th and Georgia, which is going to be the entry point for the hotel that will be being built there. Across the street from there, kind of Matthew, to your point, is going to have some public space. And so all of this is conceptual. And as that stuff comes to fruition, I'll make sure that we funnel it to you guys to have greater input. But I thought it was kind of interesting that they were planning to do that. And I also wanted to kind of talk about that as we kind of get into the resolution about Bryant Street bike lanes, just in the fact that if there are any alternatives or anything that we wanted to talk about, it seems like W will not be a very, it will be an interrupted kind of road that may not be very friendly to bikes and things of that nature, but more to come.
Thank you, Brian. Or Commissioner Footer.
Brian's fine.
Anyone have questions or comments on that? Okay, sounds good. And I do see that the Rock and Roll Marathon presenter is here. So I will go ahead and promote you to panelist. And then you can present to us about the, I guess it's a half marathon, excuse me. Diane, did you see me promote? Okay, there we go.
Hello, good evening.
Hey, Diane.
Hi. Check out my. Okay. So I had to put the dogs up, so if you hear barking in the background, I don't know why.
It's all good.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry about that. I'm going to be real brief. I know you guys are very familiar with this event. My name is Diane Thomas. I'm here to talk about the rock and roll real quick. It's in its 15th year running in Washington, D.C. This is I think about the 12th year I've been in front of one of the Ward 1 commissions. The event is Saturday, March 18th, and it is a half marathon and a 5K. So before we had a full marathon, that has gone away. So there's no longer a full. We're only doing the half, which you guys will see only the half marathon. You won't see the 5Kers. We have a field size. We anticipate about 17,000 this year, 15 being in the half and about 2,000 running in the 5K. The event, again, it's a Saturday morning. Oh, thank you. There it is in front of you. I'll show you that it's pretty much the same around the Howard area. We're coming, the runners are going to be coming eastbound on Harvard, making that southbound on 5th, running down 5th until Bryant, making the eastbound right turn on Bryant, and then going all the way out to North Capitol Street. That time frame is that's you're hitting them at about mile 10, you're going to see the runners. So they've kind of spaced out a little bit at a pretty good pace. You should see the event starts at 14th and Constitution at 8:30 in the morning. So you should be seeing your first runners there at about 9:15 at a very good pace. MPD closes the streets, they control that. So they'll start closing those pretty early. And then they will open them up as that last runner comes through there. We usually clear out of there historically, same pace, same start time. The runners are usually clear of Bryant Street at about no later than 11:15, and we're out of there. And then we follow with the street cleaner and making sure those streets are clean, and then they're out of that area there. So again, that's Saturday, March 18th. There at West Point, there are no bands in this ANC there, so you won't hear that music on this part of the course. I think there's a water station up by Drew Hall, which is at Harvard and 5th. Other than that, that's a very quick summary of the event. I will mention one thing: there is no parking. I know you guys, if you remember, they MPD requires a safe street, so we have to put no parking signs up. They'll go up on Wednesday, the 15th, and it'll be no parking during the event along 5th, which normally with those new bike, white cones they put up, you can't really park on 5th anyway, but that would be no parking along 4th by the Howard dorms and along Bryant. So I actually work for Howard, so I will make sure that every year I let them know that, remind them that we're coming through there for those time frames, so we don't disrupt any school activities. And we are DC Water too. I don't know if that water station for DC Water is in this ANC, but we do work with DC Water as well as getting their trucks in and out, that morning of the event. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, and I believe DC Water Station is in your ANC, Commissioner Footer.
Yep.
I assume Harvard is blocked off for parking too during the event?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah. And then I guess the only question, well, I'll let other folks go first. Commissioner Footer, did you have questions you'd like to ask?
Just one. Does the parking that will be taken away for the temporary period, is it just on that stretch, or does it stretch out past
Just on the
to
course.
give like just on the course?
Yeah, they actually
will there
use side streets to do a relocation. They don't tow them and impound them. They'll do a, what do they call them, a friendly tow, a friendly relocation of the cars. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And will there be barricades along the way, or is it rope, or
No.
what's the kind of blocking off of the street?
No, well, MPD will use cars. DPW also uses, I think you've probably seen them use trucks when they're closing streets sometimes. So we definitely don't use barricades. MPD will put their cars on the block of the course. They tend to do it a block out too. I mean, they'll let local people who live in that block, but they tend to do a block out just to be on the safe side as far as making sure there's no cars trying to, get up to the course and get stuck. So they have historically done that.
Gotcha. That's all I got.
Commissioner Ray, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, just quickly, and welcome back, Diane. Always good to see you in this event. Actually, you had a drum band on sort of the 5th and Harvard last time. Is that so? That's not. They were nice. They were good, actually.
Yeah, I think that's the one band you're gonna see. So I
Oh,
apologize.
okay, so you did. So we are going to have a band. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm sorry. I misspoke there. Yes, on the
Gotcha.
corner, up there on the corner.
Yeah, right there at where that bend is down as they make
Right.
that turn. Okay. And then despite all of the advertising you guys do, there are still people that will be coming down Sherman and coming down Georgia, and they will just have no idea where to go. Are there any, you don't put up any of those electronic signs, like they do on highways that kind of tell people as they're heading in this direction?
VMS signs, yeah,
Yeah.
we've used those before on the major routes, like 50. We'll have, I don't know if you've seen that sign on 50, but we'll use that one coming in from 395. We'll put one there. Any of the major arteries, Georgia
I mean,
Avenue.
Georgia, it's probably too late now, but Georgia Avenue would certainly be that corner of Georgia, New Hampshire, Rock Creek Church, where that all kind of comes together, because everyone's thinking that I'm going to go down Sherman because Georgia's no, and they're not getting through.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know
that's my only suggestion.
we do use Waze as well. So all these street closures are in Waze, and I think they're also in Google Maps. Not that everybody uses that mapping device, but that is another way that we can kind of catch people before they get stuck in any of this traffic. But I will recommend a VMS sign at Georgia and New Hampshire. I think we've done that in the past because that was a concern. They were coming up to Georgia and get stuck.
Yeah, and at least it would allow them to, I don't know where you would tell them to go necessarily, but it's, the going south from that point on is just a mistake.
Yeah, because
Okay.
North Capitol southbound is, northbound is open all day, but southbound does get stuck at Bryant.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and if you don't, I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, my muting buddy keeps disappearing, so go for it.
Speaking of transportation going north and southbound, considering that the route's going to go across Harvard and then it's going to cut over Sherman and Georgia, what's the traffic consideration for letting people go kind of north and southbound on Sherman and Georgia?
MPD totally controls that. So when there's breaks, that's going to be at mile 9. So if there's breaks, which there should be, MPD will allow traffic to come across. Ambulance and fire trucks always come across. If there's a break, MPD will make that decision whether it's safe to get people across without impacting the runners. So that's the only thing I can't. MPD totally controls that, unfortunately. If you look to the west, that's all in the park. So everything west, south of Calvert, that's all park. So there's no, we're not, Connecticut's open, Mass is open, to get, unfortunately, around this. I know it's kind of around the way, but that's all open on the west because that's all inside the park. So Mass is open, Rhode Island Avenue is open, because we go under Rhode Island, we go under New York. So those are all open as well. So they would just have to, if they're coming, I can tell you that now, but I know a driver coming in from maybe Silver Spring is not going to know, how to get around that. But hopefully the VMS sign will help, or trying to get as much communication out on the radio and things like that.
Awesome, thank you. And if the race starts at 9, then people are not going to actually get to the kind of Bryant Street corner area until around 11:15. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it starts
Early.
at 8:30, and they won't get to mile 10 until 9:15. What time will that band start playing?
Not until the first runner comes. So they won't be playing to an empty street. They'll wait for that. We have an advance car that is quite a bit ahead. So they'll play when that advance car comes through. It's not too far ahead. It's probably just, 4 or 5 minutes ahead of and it's usually an MPD vehicle that is the advance car. So they kind of get ahead to get the light to have the band start going, and that's usually the trigger.
Great.
Thank you. And then I had a couple of questions. Is there any sort of notification process for residents in the area?
Yes, 2 things, which we've always done. We've done the core signs, those 22 by 22 chloroplast signs. Those go up at every intersection along the course. So you'll see those goes up 1 week before. So those will go up March 7th. I'm doing my math. March 11th. I think it's a Saturday before. You'll see those up in every intersection. We'll put those up. So let's say, it'll say course, this is, can't remember what it says, course, street, and then it'll have the Waze, it should have the Waze logo on it to direct people for, traffic in that morning of. So those go up. And then we also do a mailing to residences along the course. So we've done that every year that I've been involved with this event. So you should be getting those. If you live right on the course or a block out, you should be getting those. They usually come out about 2 weeks ahead. So those should be mailed out at the beginning of March. And then we do, we do a couple of the blogs. We always do Prince of Petworth blog. It's a good source of information, which you guys know. And some of the other local blogs we try to get on so people know that this is coming. And anywhere you want this posted, please direct me, because I would be more than happy to get some information out to them.
Yeah, we'll communicate it out to our mailing list and the other mailing lists in the area. My last question is, do you know what the plans are for the bus routes in the area?
Well, no, I know
Okay.
Metro is on, I wish I could answer that. Metro is well aware of this event, and they have new messaging boards that they use a lot if there's a delay in a bus getting to a route, but they come out with alternate routes for the event. I just don't have that information on hand.
Okay, that's fine. Are there any other questions among the committee? All right, I guess anything that we could be doing to help Diane get the word out, or?
No, just direct me to any kind of site you want me to put it on, any information you need. I'm happy to help. Maybe I can get more specific in the timeline so people can really plan their day. Anything you need me to do, happy to get that out. This is my work ANC, so I definitely want as many people to know, especially the Howard, because the kids are not on spring break. This is all, usually they're not there because they're on spring break, but it's falling a little later and our spring break is earlier. So we'll definitely work with them to make sure these, students aren't impacted or the residents are impacted by this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your presentation. We really appreciate it and appreciate you coming to give us more information about the event.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Oh.
Before we actually let her go,
Oh, yeah.
we need to do anything as a commission in order to help support you? Did you need a letter, an
That
endorsement,
would be
or?
fantastic. Some ANCs just write a letter, they do a vote, and then they write a letter to the Homeland Security Special Events Task Force. And you just note that we presented and that the commission was in support of the special event.
And if you have a copy of one that maybe has been
Thank you.
done in the past, if you can forward that to us, that might be really helpful just to start.
Absolutely. I will get that to you tomorrow.
Thank you for that question, Brian. That'll be useful. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight, Diane. Really appreciate you coming here.
Okay. And this is a committee meeting. Would I need to come back? Is this the full commission or is this a committee?
Oh, no. Yeah. So this is just a committee meeting, but
Okay.
we'll go ahead. I mean, there are 3 of the 5, almost 6, maybe 7 commission members on this call. So we'll go ahead and get that through our next meeting.
Okay. Would you like me
And-
to come back to that meeting, or am I good?
You don't need to.
Okay.
Anyone else disagree? Okay, great. I'm seeing head shakes.
Okay. And then you guys, this is a new commission, right? With the new redistricting? That's what
Yep,
I'm trying to
it's centered around Georgia Avenue, and so it's
Oh, cool. Okay.
all right. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that email with more information about what you've seen folks send to the Homeland Security Events Task Force in the past, and we can go ahead and put something together for the full commission and get that approved.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also, you guys, I will share my cell number. So for race day, if there's any problems, anything going on that I need to know about, I'm in command. So I'm right next to MPD, and we can hopefully solve most of the problems that you if you counter any of the race morning. I'll definitely have that for you guys.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Mhm.
Bye. All right. I did not prepare a resolution for that, but I think it sounds like we're all fairly good on the specifics? Okay, cool. We'll put together that letter for the full committee then, and get that introduced at our next committee meeting, which is in 3 weeks. So great. I will switch back to the rest of the agenda. Just wanted to talk briefly about committee scope in case anyone that is on the line had not read through that yet. So I'll just pull up the ANC 1E website. If you haven't already gone to it yet, it's anc1e.org. You can see my admin access to it, but you should see a little bit of a different view. And then you can go to committees and transportation and public space. So the idea behind the committee is work on issues in transportation, mobility, pedestrian safety, and public spaces. So we have a few parks in the area, so that would be under this committee. Things like sidewalks would be under this committee. We'll be working on resolutions throughout the year. I'd like to take a bit of a proactive approach, and you'll see that with the Bryant Street resolution in terms of generating ideas, giving those ideas to DDOT so they understand that there is an appetite for safer streets in ANC 1E. Any questions about the scope or comments from anyone on the committee? All right, we will move on to the next topic. So wanted to do a bit of a brainstorming session while we have folks here, just talking through the different goals folks have, things that they might want to introduce, or resolutions that they might want to write, or presentations that they'd like to see. So I'll kick things off just to help start with the brainstorming, and I'll just take notes right in here. But in terms of resolutions, last year I helped out with a Sidewalk Palooza event in ANC 1E, and then also in other ANCs in Ward 1. The idea there was raising awareness about the conditions of sidewalks, the amount of time it takes for sidewalk issues to be fixed compared to pothole fixes. So my understanding from the data is that sidewalk fixes take upwards of 1 year, pothole fixes take upwards of 5 business days. So quite a variation in what DDOT is prioritizing there. So I'm working on a resolution for just raising awareness about Sidewalk Palooza and making sure that DDOT is putting resources toward getting sidewalks fixed. This is especially important for folks who use mobility devices, but also families who are pushing around strollers. I ran into a lot of people pushing around strollers while I've been walking around the neighborhood, and there are just so many chunks of sidewalk where you have to literally lift up the stroller, otherwise you can't get over the 1 to 2 inch hump in the sidewalk where the sidewalks are meeting. So I'd like to do a resolution around that. And then I am not very good at taking notes while I talk, but the presentation that I'd like to get scheduled is a presentation from DDOT on their new traffic safety. And I do not remember what the new I stands for. If anyone remembers and wants to share it, but the TSI process changed again. I think it was effective January 1st. And some folks have had constructive feedback on it. I'd be curious to just learn more from DDOT on the benefits they think of this new approach and how we can most effectively advocate for things that we see as TSIs in our area. I think it's traffic safety input now that I say it out loud.
Mr. Chair, if you're looking for a contact for that, if you don't already have one, I know that 1B is having them present at their meeting tomorrow, their general body meeting tomorrow. And the presenter's name is listed on their agenda. So that might be a good place to start.
Thank you, Commissioner Footer. And you can also just call me Josh. Great, yeah, I'll reach out to, or I'll take a look at that agenda and maybe attend the meeting tomorrow, see what they have to say. But yeah, I would like to open the floor to other folks. Go ahead, Michael.
All right. Well, just to make sure that it's on everyone's radar, assuming not everyone has been at all of these meetings. The Georgia Avenue bus lane project is probably the largest project that we'll have this year. So, the committee should be thinking about if you haven't already seen the draft plans, I should probably make sure that we have a link to them somewhere on the website or something. But they've gone through one level of concept review. So the next one I assume would be like a 30% engineering design, and that we would get a chance to see that and to provide some feedback. Those that might have participated would know that a number of the ANCs complained that they're doing them as not right against the curb. They're doing the next lane, so there'll still be a parking lane, and then the bus lane, and then a drive lane, and then the median, and then repeat. That's somewhat, we still think is somewhat problematic in that it's probably going to get blocked, certainly at certain places. So those that are going to be active on the committee, you might want to familiarize yourself with that over the course of some time. But yeah, I think that's it for now. Also, I would I'm sorry, one more mention, and that is it is budget season. So if there is something that the committee or the commission or you all think that the commission should be advocating for within the mayor's budget, now would be a really good time to start getting that together, because we're not at the point yet where the mayor has even put together her stuff, and she's going to be doing her community sessions where they try to get community input. So now is the time. Thank you.
Commissioner Ray, did you want to say anything about some of the transportation stuff that you're going to be experiencing in your district on the northern boundary line? DDOT had
Yeah, no, thank you. I had forgotten that. It was in my head, but I forgot it. And that it's more, this is smaller, but we'll probably hear from people about it. And that is along New Hampshire and Otis. This was part of the mobility study that was done, I want to say about a year to a year and a half ago now, maybe it was just a year ago. And as part of that mobility study, mobility and safety, they identified Otis, New Hampshire, Rock Creek Church, where that all kind of comes together as a dangerous intersection. And so they want to do cement bulb outs. They started off as they were going to just be those flex posts, but they've combined it now with a water management program, so that it will be actual concrete. On the corners, it's really not a big problem. It shouldn't be a big deal. Most of the corners are not parking areas, and so these will be water retention / parking corner extensions. However, in the middle of Otis, they would like to add trees. And so that is going to require basically a bump out off of the curb that it would allow large enough that a tree could be planted in the bump out where a car would normally park. Right now, they've identified 3 locations for three of these on the Otis side. I think most of them are they're all on the south side of the street. Some of the neighbors are not happy about that, and there is going to be a public meeting next Tuesday at 6. I can send everybody this if they want, where DDOT will be on site, and they will talk to the neighbors directly about the program. We did flyering. Sorry, this is getting long. We did flyering to all of the community because I wanted to make sure that people at least knew this was coming. And so there has been some pushback, so we'll see. And then if the committee, when the NOI comes out, if this committee wants to weigh in, and then the commission, then that would be an opportunity to do that. Although I always kind of point out that by the NOI process, we're pretty far down the pike, but you should be thinking about it. Sorry, that was long.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray. I did not see who raised their hand next after I started taking notes. So if anyone wants to be honest and say that they should go next, it's totally fine. We're going to go with Committee Member Batal.
Mine's not like a super like in-depth proposal or project or anything like that. And this might be kind of like a continuation of the Georgia Avenue bus lane project, but a lot of light cycles on Georgia Avenue, like the right turn signal or left turn signal are kind of synced with the pedestrian cross signal, which like puts pedestrians in like the line of fire for a lot of turning cars. So like maybe looking to give pedestrians a head start on those or resyncing the lights is definitely something that I think would be worth looking into in like the next coming months. So that was my big thing. And then traffic calming on Sherman always, but I don't have too much beyond that for that right now. I'll have to think about it, look at it more, but it is a dangerous street. And I know we're working on Georgia, but
And sorry, did you say the turning signals on Georgia?
yeah, a lot of the turning signals on Georgia, either from side streets or on Georgia themselves, they're synced so that the turns kind of like happen at the same time as pedestrian cross signals. So cars are turning at the same time pedestrians are being told to cross. So
I'm sorry, let me just add to that. And that is just call it leading pedestrian indicators.
Oh, yeah.
And if the committee comes up with a list and then it gets them submitted, probably have to submit them individually, but
Mhm.
the signals team can make that change remotely now.
Oh,
So that
okay.
would be, if you start identifying them, we can probably get them, in the pipeline quickly. Thanks.
Wow. Okay, that's great. What are they called? I'm
Leading
sorry?
pedestrian indicators.
Pedestrian indicators.
Yeah, pretty sure that's the type.
Yeah, that's right.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you. And I cede the floor.
Thank you. Commissioner Footer?
Sure. So I have a number of things, and I will admit that they are all specifically related to my SMD. So, let me know if this is something that either I should kind of take on my own and kind of bring it to the committee after I've done a lot of it, or if this is something that the committee would be interested in doing together. But essentially, streetlights on 8th Street in particular, the DDOT Streetlight Division is the responsible group for that. Zone parking, particularly on 8th Street, it is basically all Maryland, Virginia drivers. And there's a lot of secondary impacts to our community with how that entire street's been utilized. And for that in particular, it would be DDOT's curbside division and DPW who does the enforcement. You already mentioned this, Josh, but street and sidewalks, specifically from my perspective, it's around regularly scheduled street cleanings. I've lived in my building for 2 years. I've never seen a street cleaner go up 8th Street, and it says that it's supposed to happen on like Mondays between like 10 and noon, and I've never seen it. I'm very interested in turning 8th Street into a one-way between B Street and W. And I think that this would be a really interesting conversation to have, particularly as Howard University is planning to develop 3 different parcels that would potentially be impacted by that. And as I mentioned earlier in the announcements, the W Street one of the W Street pieces would be a pedestrian-friendly kind of zone, I'll call it. Then sidewalk repairs, actually, that's what you were talking about before. And then tree box repairs and scheduled cleanings and working with DPW and KC Trees.
Yeah, I thought the tree box repairs were usually owned by the owner of the building. At least my understanding is for a lot of residential areas, if you have a house and there's a tree box in front, you're responsible for it. Is that different for larger buildings?
Nope, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, there are 3 parking lots that are 2 parking lots really that are on 8th Street, and therefore it's kind of like a no man's land. I believe that Howard University is technically responsible because they own the property, but they've been very bad at it. Something that Commissioner Ray pointed out earlier, and this is a really good kind of catch that I'm going to ask Howard about, but because those parcels have been taken out of the master plan because they're going to be used for development and kind of private residential area, does that mean that their regular facilities maintenance doesn't capture it because it's no longer part of the master plan? It's a really great question, and planning to kind of get some more information on that. But you're right, technically, if the tree box is in front of a residence, including big buildings, they're responsible for it. But for these condemned buildings and these parking lots, who's really responsible for it? But DPW is a great place to start, I've been told, and KC Trees will gladly provide trees or replace trees or send an arborist out to actually assess a tree, all that stuff. So those are two partners that I think would be a really good place to start.
Thank you. And then Commissioner Ray, it looks like you had something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, imparting the 5 years of wisdom here, right? So the thing I would point out for you, the complication that you're going to have, I think, on some of those that you have in your district is DDOT built some of these water retention areas. DC Water built some of these water retention areas. So some of them might actually be owned and need to be cleaned by either DDOT or DC Water. So in the ones on 8th Street, for example, they're deeper where the water can flow in. I think those are actually a DC Water project, but I could be wrong on that. So that might be another place to try.
Amazing. Thank you.
Commissioner Ray, do you know of a way to figure that out online with publicly accessible data? Or
I probably have somewhere in my old tweets. Somewhere, because I remember that project for DC Water, or if it was DC Water, was called like the LaDroit Park something water management.
Oh,
and it extended all the way up into 1A. And so that's what I'm remembering, but I have to find the specifics again.
Okay, I can ask around too. Just curious.
As we were talking, I remember 2 more or 3 more things, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
One, I've had a request or an idea for raised crosswalks. I don't know much about them. I think it's a fantastic idea, particularly in these high density residential areas. But I think that'd be really interesting to do, and I'm sure it could be applicable across the entire commission. 2, I don't know how much jurisdiction we have on it, but working with 1B on this 9th and Florida disaster zone that they just recently put all these streetlights in, and it's created more confusion and more traffic congestion than I think that they had anticipated. The previous commissioner had been working on it, and I think that this was meant to be a pilot, and it's just not going very well. And so it might be worth having DDOT come out and kind of give some history and kind of what they're finding. But I get tons of complaints about it. Again, I don't know how much jurisdiction we have over it because it's not 1E, it's 1B, but maybe this is a good segue into, how do we collaborate with some of the other commissions? And then the final one is working with MPD to install cameras on streetlights. This is something that also just came to me. I don't know much about it, but it's definitely worth looking at or looking into. I can see one outside of my window right in front of Nellie's, and that was the example that they gave. But apparently, MPD will work with DDOT to install a camera, and the city will own it, and I guess DDOT will manage it, but the feed will be available to MPD. But it's definitely a government issued, managed kind of thing.
Got it. Thank you. And totally agree on 9th in Florida. So I'm just trying to remember what streets are where. I've had a lot of issues there where, like when you're going down that on a bike, the turn signal and the green light for cars is like directly in front of you, and you're supposed to use the pedestrian light, and that's like 10 feet to the left. And so it gets very confusing when you're going down on a bike, because you're like, oh, green means go, but really I shouldn't, because there's a green arrow and the crosswalk light is do not walk.
And in addition to that, they're supposed to only take a left-hand turn when the arrow is there, but no one abides by it because it's really hard to see. So as bikes and things are coming, like, it's just going to be super dangerous. Like, love the bike lanes, super happy they're there, but that's the traffic lighting situation is difficult.
Yeah, I'll follow up with 1B's chair of I don't remember what they call their committee. I think it might be mobility in public spaces, since he had worked on that area previously too. So, okay. And then committee member, and is it Chaff? I don't know that I've ever tried pronouncing your last name.
Schaff.
Chaff, okay.
Thank you. So I actually wanted to add to what committee member Batal had said regarding Georgia Ave. Of course, there's always something to say about Georgia Ave. But I mean, there's two issues in particular I want to point out. One is that the speed changes in the ANC, just somewhere around Irving or Columbia, I believe. I just don't understand exactly why. I mean, considering that the density appears to be more or less the same throughout that space. And so that's something I'd certainly like to learn more about. Maybe something that's worth putting, if we're doing Georgia Ave to engaging with DDOT on that to discuss. And then also, of course, the lighting at Georgia Ave and Lamont, which is I don't know officially what it's called, but it's the pedestrian controlled light. Which then, results in these sort of flashing red lights that are basically confusing for all parties. And I know it's an issue elsewhere in the district as well. And it's certainly on my radar and lots of other people's radar who use that intersection, and would love to, over the course of the year, look into that more and how we can improve that and make that better. One thought I had, when Commissioner Ray had raised the bus lane on Georgia Ave project, is that it'd be useful for us to find ways to sort of on a regular basis communicate with the public about the status of different transportation projects. Or perhaps not necessarily, taking on the responsibility to communicate about the status, but finding ways to make it easier for people to access this information. If you miss the meeting, then you're kind of sometimes it's hard to figure out, what happened, what the project is, and actually even where to find the information about it. And so that's something that good for us to make a of this information. And then also, like, on a regular basis, it's the beginning of the year. Perhaps it would be a good opportunity for us to figure out how to share that information more broadly and make it accessible to people about all the different projects that are underway that in the ANC that could affect them. And then the last thing I wanted to perhaps just a question, maybe a suggestion. Now that Idaho Stop is legal in the district in certain intersections, I'm not aware of how the public is being notified about this. Both people, bicyclists, but also pedestrians and automobile drivers. Considering how there's already a good deal of tension over that very issue. It seems like certainly a responsibility of DDOT and perhaps other agencies in the district, but maybe something also that we could facilitate in some way of educating people about that, perhaps through a presentation or something else. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all the ideas that we have. In the interest of time, I'm just going to, after this meeting, take a little bit more detailed notes on each of these and then send it out, and we can do some more brainstorming offline. Anyone have anything that they wanted to add before we jump into the next agenda item?
One more thing, community member Jeff, I'm so sorry.
Schaff, it's okay.
Schaff, thank you. It reminded me, do we want to look at maybe putting together a resolution weighing in on Councilmember Pinto's bike bill?
Oh, yes, I do want to do that as well. Oh, my shortcuts are just making things worse. Okay, yeah. I'm interested in working on that over the next month. So if anyone wants to join me in that, would welcome it. I have a lot of thoughts. Great, we will jump into the resolution for the Bryant Street bike lane study. So the impetus of this is I was speaking to the current 1B chair of transportation or mobility or whatever they called that committee that I'm just not remembering. And he mentioned that 1B had previously passed a resolution related to Bryant Street asking DDOT to study adding bike lanes in there. I personally know a lot of folks that use that route already because it's a relatively low traffic area to get from Lower Georgia Avenue to Bloomingdale. I use that route a lot when I'm trying to get to the Metropolitan Branch Trail. So figured we could be a little bit more proactive and suggest some ideas to DDOT as to another bike lane that might be useful. We did get into some of the, I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to read through this yet, but further down in the document, we did get into some specifics as to options that DDOT could consider. Obviously, these are not things that DDOT needs to do. These are just more options for how that might look in practice. So I went through some of the data available online as to roadway block widths and DDOT's design and engineering manual, and put all that information together to just talk a little bit about what this could look like in practice. From past news articles and DDOT releases, my understanding is that DDOT's usual policy is to have RPP parking only on the side of streets with residences. And there's a significant portion of Bryant that doesn't have any residences or just has one. So if you removed one lane of parking, you would still be able to maintain RPP parking for the side with residences while also having protected bike lane in both directions. So wanted to bring this to this meeting today just to get other folks' thoughts on it, and then potentially pass this and bring it to the wider ANC meeting in a few weeks and talk about it there.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
And I apologize, I didn't have time to really get into the tables, but if you don't mind scrolling down a bit, the manual, DDOT's design and engineering manual, do they give any specifications for how wide a street could be in order to accommodate bikes?
Oh, this is, yeah, so this is one example that they gave. I was struggling to find all the information. On the one hand, I want to make this like as easy as it is for DDOT, but on the other hand, I'm not a traffic engineer and just like want to give the idea to DDOT and they can tell me what they like or don't like about it. But yeah, this is the one example I saw where it was travel lanes that are 10 feet wide. So as an example up here for 2nd Street to 1st Street, those would be travel lanes that are total of 22 feet, so slightly larger than what DDOT has in their design manual. The parking width would be the 8 feet as required in their design manual. And then, oh, sorry, that's what the current state is. And then further down here, I have the travel width of 21 feet for a section, 8 feet of parking width, still have 2 travel lanes, still have 1 parking lane, and then bike lane width of 5 feet. So total of 11 feet to give a little bit of breathing room.
Gotcha.
And I will say portions of this are obviously outside of our ANC, so something that I've spoken with members of the other ANC on. They don't have a strong opinion on it either way. They'd want to get more community input, but this is more so to start a conversation with DDOT. It doesn't have to be Bryant all the way to North Cap. I'd be fine with Bryant to 2nd Street and finding other low stress ways to get to North Capitol for, because DDOT has an eventual goal of putting bike lanes on North Capitol. That's probably many years down the road, but just want to start that conversation now so that DDOT's thinking about how we can get from Lower Georgia Avenue to Bloomingdale in a safer manner.
The vast majority of it, though, is in my district, actually.
Yep. Everything from Georgia Ave to 2nd Street. And then even
I think it's
some,
1st Street.
Yeah, I think up to 2nd Street is where it splits, where it's like half of your, like you get one half of the road.
Yeah. I have like the northern side of the road, and the southern boundary is Ward 5, something like that. Well, if I can be the first to say, amazing job on this. I love the idea. In kind of doing a little bit of research myself, there isn't any east to west bike lanes available that connect all the way from 4th Street northeast to, I believe I put it in there, to Georgia, I believe. There's no east to west within 1.4 miles and 1.5 miles. And so I think this is a great opportunity. It's kind of right in the middle of that. Great find in the fact that it is not a residential area. It would go right through campus, which I think is actually an added benefit for Howard University itself. And I like the fact that you kind of talk about how McMillan is going to increase density, residential density in the area, and it would behoove us to kind of proactively put something together to connect these two major areas now.
Thank you for that. And thank you for adjusting a lot of the wording in here, making it sound a little bit nicer. I don't write a lot in my day job, so just a lot of short emails.
I write too much in my day job. I'm happy to help anytime.
Commissioner Ray.
Yeah, I'm looking. So the thing that I, of course, did when I first heard you wanted to talk about Bryant was I looked at the Move DC plan, and I've got it up on my screen, but you don't know how to look at it. Clearly they did not put bicycle priority across Bryant, but looking at the map, it makes a lot of, to me at least, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know what that street entails myself. I'm not on that street very often. I'm assuming it's all a public street, despite the fact that it goes through a university. Whether or not any of that is university property, I'm not sure. But I think that it's worth looking at. I do notice, and I don't know if you included this in your write-up. I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was a draft somewhere. That Florida is also part of a bike priority in the future. It's not currently designed that way. But if you then took Bryant to Barry to Florida, you would actually connect all the way then down onto New Hampshire, which I guess has infrastructure because it's green. So I'm assuming it's there today. So anyway, that's all to say that it could be made part of the overall network in a fairly easy way if DDOT chose to do that. I would also then point out to the committee, maybe for future thought, is Euclid is supposed to be east-west going west, going from Georgia Avenue, going all the way over and into 1C. So that might be something to look at the future, since it's on the plan, trying to get it moved up the list. That's it.
Thank you for that comment. I did not realize that Euclid was on the plan, and that isn't a portion of my district. And then one thing I didn't mention is that the proposal that I put in here would require making a portion of Bryant from Second to First Street one way instead of two-way travel. I don't know how much that matters. And again, this is just a proposal of, hey, DDOT, here is something that seems like a good idea to us. Doesn't have to be exactly like this, but would like to connect these corridors. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't think that my personal kind of piece, I don't think that street is widely traveled. It's the foot of McMillan Park on the north side, and then the south side is townhouses all along there. It's like it kind of does an S, almost like a straighter S. And so I can't imagine that. I think it would be an interesting idea, and it would be interesting to get positive feedback from residents in that area to turn it into a one-way with kind of minimal impact. My 2 cents, but definitely interested in learning more about that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then committee member Schaaf.
Yes, the resolution looks great to me. I just would note that on the, I mean, there in addition to DC Water, there's also a DPW facility there of some sort on the other side of the street, and I guess not the portion where it would need to be one way based on the information that you have here necessarily, but that could be an issue, I suppose, at some point. Are there in terms of other sort of east-west corridors, of course, is also the Irving Street and Kenyon bike lanes, which are about a half-mile north. I don't know if there are sort of what the guidelines are on sort of what's an acceptable. I think Commissioner Footer, you had said something about a mile or something like that in one direction or another. Does anyone know what the sort of the guidelines on that are? Perhaps Josh, you do, if you were looking at these materials recently.
I haven't seen specific guidelines, but I'm not sure that at least the Kenyon portion is that relevant, because if you go on Kenyon, you're going north of the reservoir, and to then get down to Bloomingdale, you have to go all the way around the reservoir. And so I think like having the direct connection through Bryant, and there's not a ton of overlap between like the portion of Bryant that is west of the reservoir and the portion of Kenyon that's west of the reservoir, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Commissioner Ray.
I was to that point, I'll only say, because I didn't say it before. And again, I would recommend that the committee look at the Move DC plan, because it will tell you where DDOT in its 20-year cycle of thinking about where things might go in the future has, where they're thinking about putting bike lanes, where they're thinking about putting bus lanes, where they're thinking about putting heavy transportation, heavy movement of trucks, which is actually something I think is in comment right now. Sorry, that's off topic. Right now, the bike lanes going east-west would be at Florida, at Euclid, at Harvard, at Kenyon Irving. So clearly they're willing to go probably about every 4 blocks is part of the plan.
Could you maybe share that link? Because I did go through
Yeah,
the Move DC, but maybe I
I'll
just
put it in the
missed that.
chat. I'll put it in the chat for now. It's a large document. You've got to know where to look
Yeah.
to find
Yeah.
it, but I'll put it in the thing.
Josh, my only remaining questions were kind of down towards the bottom, and specifically, like we present a really good kind of argument and framework for justifying why this is something they should do. But what exactly are we asking? Are we asking them to actually just do a feasibility study? Are we asking them to just do it?
Yeah, I think a feasibility study is a fair ask at this point. I doubt that they would actually do it just from us asking them to do it, and we probably need to go through a feasibility study first anyway. So yeah, we can make that more explicit in the language that we ask for some sort of feasibility study. That's right there, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very clear. I just wasn't sure if that was specifically there for a conversation or if that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, got it. And then committee member Batal, I saw you unmute. did you have something you wanted to add, or?
No, sorry, I'm good. I was looking at the Move DC bike plan. Actually, Michael, do you have any insight into like if the plan where it says like future planned improvements, if that like indicates what kind of improvements they're intending to make? Because I noticed on this map they have 11th Street Northwest as marked as existing cycling infrastructure, which in my experience is not the case. There is a line of paint on the road, which, you know, is intended for bicycles, but I don't know if I would necessarily call that like a transportation corridor intended for cyclists.
Yeah, so each map of that section is specific to that thing. So if they show, if it's like, if you're in the bike section, then it's showing just the bikes, and if you're in the bus, it's sort of just the bus. But to your point, you know, there are existing bike lanes on 11th. They consider that infrastructure. It does not meet, I don't think it meets their current standards. Which is why it is on the list. You know, as part of 1A and 1B's work last year, it has now been added to the list. It will be upgraded to protected bike lanes in the probably next year or this year.
Right.
This
Yeah,
year.
I've heard rumblings of that plan. I just wasn't sure because I just wanted to understand the map better. But thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
There was a presentation in community discussion of the 11th Street bike lane plan late last year.
I remember that happening. I think I was at work late or something that day and was not able to attend, but I do remember hearing about that and intending to go, having it on my calendar and everything, and then not being able to. So
I would, if you are interested in that project right now, I think the biggest pushback is on the south of Florida Street, which is where 1B is handling that, and you know, they would certainly appreciate all the support they can get.
All right, good to know. Thank you.
If I can ask a quick question, the second to last clause there, pardon my ignorance, what are we saying here? So ANC 1E prefers that the bike lane be protected where DDOT controls the roadway. What is the difference between the protected versus non-protected, and does DDOT not have jurisdiction over certain areas?
Oh, this is more so getting at the fact that if this does, we have that separate thread going with Howard. If Howard does extend the road or reconnect Sherman to Georgia, I'm not sure that the entirety of that stretch would be under DDOT's jurisdiction. So there's not much leverage that we can ask Howard to have some sort of cycle path through there to connect Sherman all the way to the rest of the bike lanes on Bryant. But that's just what that is referring to. And then the protection aspect is, I mean, maybe we should be more specific and not just have flex posts and the concrete bumps, or I do not remember what the technical term is for that.
I can just refer to them as curbs.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, the curbs.
And I participated in the 11th Street bike lane discussion last year, and they said that protected was the current standard that they're working for in all bike lanes, and that it, in fact, was the issue in 11th Street, just below U Street. So I mean, the takeaway from that is that we can probably look to the current DDOT policy and just sort of cite that specifically regarding the protected level of bike lane.
I'll add a comment for that then. All right. I guess we can go ahead and see how folks are feeling generally about the resolution, if we should pass it on to the ANC at this point, or if we want to make revisions and come back next month. I'm happy to just make these revisions and do it via email if folks are generally okay with the framework. Okay. So all those in favor of this current framework and moving the final adjustments to email, say or raise your hand. Perfect. Looks like we're all in agreement. Thank you for passing our first resolution on to the overall ANC. Looking forward to presenting this there as well. And then we will go ahead and wrap up. I just wanted to quickly mention that, as Michael said, or sorry, Commissioner Ray said, it's the budget season right now. There are a lot of upcoming council budget oversight hearings for departments that are related to issues that we all care about. So I will paste a link in the follow-ups to this and on our website, but if you just look at this performance overview document, it's kind of a beast, but it lists out all the upcoming meetings. Generally speaking, for members of the public, you're allotted 3 minutes to testify live if you want to. You're also allowed to submit written comments if you don't want to take the time to testify live. And then for those of us who are elected commissioners, we're allotted 5 minutes at these to present on the issues that we care about. Any questions on that? Great. Well, thank you everyone for our inaugural Transportation and Public Spaces Committee meeting. Appreciate everyone taking the time out of your night. I especially appreciate the attendee that made it almost all the way through, but he seemed to have just dropped off. Maybe they should be a committee member too. But yes, our next meeting will be Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. Right now, the plan is to hold it virtually. I know that at some point we want to have some hybrid meetings, but we'll be taking that as a commission to talk about and figure out strategies of where we could actually be hosting meetings like this. But yeah, thanks everyone. And I will go ahead and stop the recording.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.